Hey there, fantasy football players. Welcome to the 2010 NFL.com Fantasy Draft Kit. Lindsay Soto alongside NFL.com Fantasy Football editors, Adam Rank, and to my left, Michael Fabiano. In this edition of the Draft Kit, we're talking about sleepers. So clearly y'all know what sleepers are. Give me three guys each that we aren't expecting necessarily to do as well as you think that they might.
Well, you know the NFL has become a passing league in recent seasons, so two of my top three sleepers, quarterbacks. The first one, Kevin Kolb in Philadelphia. We know Donovan McNabb is gone now with the Washington Redskins, and Kolb showed some real upside last season in 2 starts, 718 yards, and 4 touchdowns. In 2010, he has an unbelievably favorable schedule, great weapons in Deshaun Jackson, Brent Selleck, Jeremy Maclin. And if you know football, you know Andy Reid likes to throw. So I think Kevin Kolb is going to put up some pretty good numbers. I target him around round 7 or 8, and I think he could be a #1 fantasy quarterback this season. Sticking with quarterbacks, Joe Flacco. If you remember last season, for the first 6 weeks, he was one of the top quarterbacks in fantasy football. Then he experienced a decrease in numbers. I don't expect that this year. Anquan Boldin now in the mix. They still have Derek Mason, Todd Heap. They brought in Dante Stallworth. He has more weapons in the pass attack than he's ever had before. I think the Ravens throw the ball a little bit more. Joe Flacco in the middle rounds, 7th or 8th round, I think he's going to be a steal. A guy who could be, again, a #1 fantasy quarterback. And finally, Felix Jones of the Cowboys. It looks like he's overtaken Marion Barber as the top option in that backfield. And last season, he had 308 yards and 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games, including the playoffs. I think Felix Jones can see 15 to 18 touches a week, maybe go in round 4 or 5 and be a better flex starter than he has in recent past. So I think Felix Jones is going to be a nice option for fantasy owners this season.
He might look like the top guy, but Marion Barber's still going to get in there and get some reps.
No
Jones
question.
Couldn't get to 700 yards last year at 3 touchdowns, I think. Is this a guy that you think that we can trust as a fantasy starter?
I think you'd be able to trust him a little bit more as a flex starter. Okay? Because, listen, you're talking about backfield committees in the National Football League are growing and growing. Almost no one sees all the carries for their team anymore. But Felix Jones is explosive. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can make plays. And that Cowboys offense, there's so many weapons. Who are you going to defend? I think Felix Jones really benefits from that as well. Again, I like him as a flex starter, someone in the 4th or 5th round.
All right, 3. Go.
Keep these on the down low. These are my sleepers.
But, we won't tell anybody.
But like Mike said, this is a passing league. I'm going to go with a couple of receivers to start. Mike Wallace is a guy I absolutely love this year. The Steelers they're kind of evolving as a passing team, and whether they have Ben Roethlisberger there or not, I still think they're going to throw the ball a lot. The thing I like about Wallace, he had 39 receptions last year. 6 of those were touchdowns. He had a nose for the end zone, and with Santonio Holmes gone, he obviously becomes the #2 starter. And I will say this, I think he passes Hines Ward as the Steelers' #1 receiver this year. And I really like him to be there around the 6th round. I got him there in our fantasy magazine draft. Really happy to have him there. Another receiver I like is Devon Bess, the 3rd-year wide receiver from the Dolphins. Now, you hear this a lot. A lot of receivers step up in that 3rd year. Well, Devon Bess showed a little bit of that last year. He had 76 receptions. He developed a real chemistry with Chad Henne. And the one thing that I kind of don't like about him is that he had only 2 touchdowns. But again, I think he's going to get more opportunities this year, and he's going to be a viable sleeper you're going to get somewhere in the later rounds, somewhere from round 12 on. And so let's stick with the Dolphins. I like Chad Henne, and I know, he's a 3rd-year guy. Again, quarterbacks mature, and they make that step in the 3rd year. Last year, he did really well in the last 5 games of the season. He had 3 300-yard games. And, he got a new #1 wide receiver, Brandon Marshall. This guy, there was nobody happier in South Florida than this guy when he got Brandon Marshall. I think he's going to have a huge year. I would look for him somewhere around the 11th round, later round, a good backup quarterback for you.
How about how Marshall might affect Bess's value?
Actually, I think he makes him better because if you look at Eddie Royal's rookie season with the Broncos, he had 100 receptions. I think Bess can be that kind of guy. He's a great guy in a Wes Welker type role where he catches a lot of passes. I think, when you think of it, too, the #1 cornerbacks from teams, they're going to be on Brandon Marshall. When they play the Jets, Revis is going to be on Brandon Marshall. So I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for Bess.
Best rocking the 15. Brandon Marshall relegated to the 19. Ted Ginzel number. That's going to do it for our sleeper candidates in this edition of our Fantasy Draft Kit. If you are craving even more draft information, then you can check out the full Fantasy Draft Kit online. You can also check out the NFL.com Fantasy Football Preview magazine, available on newsstands and NFL Shop right now.